Hello and welcome to another episode of Father and Joe. I'm Joe Rockey here with Father Boniface. And Father, you told me something, I guess now it's about 6 weeks ago, that during the consecration, when the priest says, accept, I'm going to need you to quote it, but accept the offering at my hands, that in my mind, until that point, again, a month or so ago, I always thought it literally meant the gifts that were brought up to the aisle. So the water, the bread, the wine that were all carried up. I thought that was the extent of the offering we discussed. In that episode, you said, no, it's much more than that. It's actually the offering of all of the people, all of our lives, all of the everything we have in the direction of centering ourselves to the Eucharist and therefore to the faith. And first off, that's just an incredibly powerful sentiment that has been sitting with me and, quite frankly, unpacking itself slowly as I've been thinking about that. But one of the things that had dawned on me, and I'm sure that I am not the first person ever to have this feeling, and it's probably something that everyone gets to at some point, is, you know what? There's a reality that God is all loving. And that reality, in my opinion, is abundant in the simple fact that we even exist. Because if we didn't, why would we be worth it? So with that knowledge that God is all loving and that he literally gave everything he had for us, how can we consciously bring negativity in part of that offering and have it be okay? So that was a very broad build-up to that question that I'm sure that's something every person has gone through, and it is a unique personal challenge that everyone goes through.
Well, we might want to explore what negativity is.
Sure.
And I appreciate, first of all, your rehashing the key point that we do make an offering of our whole lives. The bread and wine are a symbol of that. And as the bread and wine are transubstantiated into the body and blood of Christ, so also is our offering transubstantiated, in an analogous way into the body and blood of Christ. And so our whole life, as we learn to bring more and more of it to the altar, becomes transubstantiated. In terms of negativity, one of the things that we pray at the Mass, we call the responsorial psalm. And even if you pray kind of the traditional form of the Mass with the entrance antiphon and a communion antiphon and offertory antiphon, you alternate that with verses of the Psalms. The Psalms, the majority of the Psalms are Psalms of lament. So if we can call that negativity, the scriptures themselves, so God's own prayer book for us, is filled with negativity in that sense. So there we have to say, what is negativity? Well, we would say it's negative emotions are the emotions we don't like to feel. It's the emotions that we feel in the presence of things that are bad. To say it simply, things that we perceive to be bad. And that adjustment is necessary because sometimes we perceive things to be bad that are not bad. And that's for a couple of reasons. Sometimes we just don't have the full picture. It's like you maybe got a tax return that is really high. And so you're really angry and it's really bad. Well, it turns out once you actually do I don't even know what I'm talking about now. You get billed for something that seems too high, but then when you actually process it, it turns out that, you're getting money back or something like that. But you have to work through the process. The crucifixion seems like a really bad thing. And indeed it is, but it is also the pathway to the resurrection. And so when we take the crucifixion in light of the resurrection, St. Paul can say, compared to the glory, the sufferings of this present time are as nothing compared to the glory that awaits us. And so some of those things can adjust as we are able to have a fuller picture, or maybe we we come home, you're a working man, you go to work, you come home to an empty house, and you're upset that your wife is not there. And then it turns out, well, actually, it's because she's out getting your favorite meal, right? So sometimes we have negativity because we don't have the full picture. And other times we have negativity because things are really negative. The suffering of the innocent is really bad. And our grieving of that, and even anger that can happen, is an appropriate response. It's a response that we won't need in eternity in heaven, because in heaven there will only be the good. Only God is left in heaven. There is no more evil. There is no more weeping. There is no more mourning. There are no more tears, because there is only good. And so all of that negativity will be gone. But in this valley of tears, as we call it, there is a reason for sadness, a reason for anger, a reason for aversion, a reason for hatred, dislike of things, of evil. So we still want to be able to bring those things to God. We don't want to invalidate those feelings which are legitimate. The suffering of the innocent is something that is deserving of compassion. Our Lady weeps at the foot of the cross. She doesn't say, well, it's going to work out all right. I'm just going to not feel the pain of the present moment because I'm just going to wait until things work out in the future. No, she laments, she weeps. She is Our Lady of Sorrows. She is there at the foot of the cross, able to remain there with hope, and that will give way eventually to the joy of the resurrection. But in the moment, it's really bad. And God himself gives us words in the scriptures, and the Psalms especially, but also the prophets, and even the words of Jesus, to lament what is bad, to be negative in that sense. So having said that, having set that stage, perhaps you could also say, well, don't we have a reason for Thanksgiving? Don't we also have reasons for joy? Don't we also have positive things that we can focus on? And that would be the part of the bigger picture, is that we do have positive things, and we shouldn't lose sight of them. We shouldn't take them for granted. We shouldn't just pretend like it's nothing, but we also don't use them to invalidate the negative. So we really feel the full range of that. And so we also offer the full range of that. And the Mass gives us the very words to offer the worst things and the best things to the Lord.
Yeah, so that's first of all, I appreciate that response. It's something that I guess I want to step back. Maybe it's a side step. I don't know if it's a true step back or not. But we're all oriented through our consciences, whether I guess we recognize that or not. So even this notion of good feelings or bad feelings, I think as the starting point of, I guess I'm taking for granted in that regards there, that things that we ought to be grateful for make you feel happy, and the things that are that make you feel bad, anger, taking away from something, just it not going the way you want to, can create those negative feelings within us. And if you're, appropriately aligned with your conscience, that category tends to be sinful things, and things that you're supposed to be grateful for are supposed to be happy things. So I guess ultimately where the thought process and the underlying question of this all comes through is whether we are the cause of the anger. As you said before, when you see something that isn't right, it is natural to sometimes feel some anger about it. It won't be necessary in heaven, but you feel it now. It can feel wrong bringing that as part of my offering at the Mass to God. Like, this is not stuff that in an ideal world I would want to share. If I were one of the people who I brought over for dinner, this is not the stuff that I would want to be presented. I'd want to, it's not how you be a host, long story short. So when we say you're not worthy to enter under my roof, to me, that kind of implies I'm supposed to be the host here to a certain degree. So I look at all this, and it's a conflict that, like, I wouldn't want this to be part of what would be presented, but we're also presenting all of ourselves, and this is part of me in this current moment. So there's obviously a tension, a conflict there. So trying to walk through that element. Again, maybe this is looking at it from a slightly different approach, but that feeling structure that I have inside me, I don't want to give that and make that part of the what I'm making you have to deal with by coming in under my roof.
Yeah, so that's a another element of it is welcoming the Lord. We have different ways of engaging Him, different dimensions of our relationship with Him. On the one hand, He calls us to be children, and shouldn't children be able to bring to their Father the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything? Shouldn't they? What else can they do with it? Are they supposed to deal with it on their own? And so we come to Him as children in that sense, or as laborers in the vineyard bringing a harvest. It's mixed, certainly, and needs to be sorted. And we also come to Him with the confidence that He can transform everything. He would not have allowed things that He couldn't bring out a greater good from. And so we bring the very fact of bringing to Him the ugly and bad is with confidence that He alone is able to transform it. We also bring honesty to Him, and we say, like, I don't like this. And that's part of a healthy relationship, is when you can actually be honest with someone and say, I don't like what you're doing. Now, I may not understand it fully, but the fact is, what I understand, what I can see, I don't like. And, as much as your little son or sons may be irritants at times, Daddy, I don't want it. At the same time, it would be terrible if they were afraid of you to the point that they couldn't express that. You want them to be honest with their experience. So that's one dimension of our relationship with Him, and that's the offertory. That's earlier in the Mass. Later in the Mass, you're right. We want to receive with love all that He gives, and it's part of being able to be honest with Him about the stuff we don't like that helps us then to come to a place to say, okay, but at the end of the day, I trust you. At the end of the day, I yield. At the end of the day, I will accept whatever you give. And that's where we've kind of cleared space in our hearts to welcome Him into a deeper intimacy with our whole self, our whole heart, mind, body, and soul, not just the good parts or the parts that we like or the parts that we think are acceptable to Him. We give Him everything, and then we open our whole self to Him to receive all that He gives
Yeah, it's simultaneously it's still that I understand what you're saying. It's having the ability and the comfort and the courage to be able to present your problems makes sense from the child standpoint, but isn't, and this might be a misinterpretation, isn't part of the calling to grow from that, so you're no longer acting as though a child with God, but actually peers is certainly not the right goal, but being able to question and understand in a more mature light. I don't know if that's the right thinking of it at all.
Well, Jesus said, unless you become like this child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. So that sounds to me like we enter as children. And before the Ancient of Days, we could say, before God, who is incomprehensibly beyond us, we really are always as children, as His little ones. Even Jesus, you might say, as advanced as His humanity was, He could still say, Father, let this cup pass from me. He didn't understand, He didn't want the cup of suffering that was coming to Him. And He could say that, but then He could also surrender. Basically, I want to be careful, it's like, I don't understand. But in His humanity, He couldn't comprehend all of the dimensions of this. He could only trust. And that trusting is childlike. He is the eternal child of the Heavenly Father, the eternal Son. So there is a way that just as you are incomprehensibly smarter than your sons, they can't begin to understand all of the things that you understand. They will grow into being like you, eventually able to understand relatively the same as you understand. We never become like that with God. He always is incomprehensibly beyond us. And so we are really always as children before Him.
I think that's an important differentiator, as far as some things that can be missed there. It's because Well, let me ask you this, and this is just might be a different way of looking at it. Since everything is built to be a relationship with each other, it's what all people are. God is obviously God, so it's not the same as having a relationship with a person. I mean, in a certain extent. So just follow this analogy through all the way before you just jump and say I'm wrong. The analogy that I have with a dog is different than the analogy that I have with even my sons or any other person. And not to say that we're the dog of God, but we're not on the same level because we can't be, because of everything you just said. Is there a certain extent that is whatever these emotions you're feeling that you feel bad about? The emotions that my dog feels about don't really kind of impact me. He gets a little sad for a moment, 3 seconds later he's happy, and I was like, well, that wasn't a big deal. And it does get to the point where it just almost becomes a certain type of white noise. Now they make certain noises like, oh, there's a problem, but the general run of the mill noises that they make, it's not really gonna to be an issue. Is there a certain reality that, or possibility, I guess, that is how our emotions that we feel are so big, center of the world, mountains that are insurmountable, are in the big scheme of things, in the relationship of God and the faith?
Ask the question again.
So we feel in a moment, because we're in our own bodies, that these emotions we're feeling are intense. They're the biggest things, relatively speaking. They have taken over our emotional space, so therefore they are massive to us. But just as sometimes my dog goes crazy and he has all this emotional love, or whatever emotion he's feeling, at the end of the day, eventually just kind of becomes, I don't need to fix this. It's going to be okay. You'll be cool. Like, it's just the mailman. Life will be okay. 3 seconds later, you go back to being calm. In some ways, some of us have emotions that feel very strong for a minute. Then we look back and we don't remember why we had them. We remember having them, but we don't remember why. It is that type of thinking possible when we look at the core of this, of saying, well, maybe God doesn't think that our emotions are things that we're afraid to bring to him are really that significant. They're significant to us, but maybe they're not significant in the grand scheme of things. I don't know if that diminishes us, if it overinflates us, but I guess trying to figure out that line along the walk.
Yeah, that's right. And the way that different people carry different emotions, that gets into the temperaments, and choleric, melancholic, sanguine, phlegmatic. Different temperaments get intense emotions quickly, and they are long lasting, or briefly, or slowly, and they are long lasting or short lasting. Anyway, the duration and the activation speed are kind of the two axes of that temperament 2x2 grid. And so the way that we carry emotions is also different depending on the person. Some people have get intensely activated, and then it is very brief. Other people get intensely activated and it's long lasting. So, and then that's also going to be affected by the significance of the stimulus. Something that's really an intense good or an intense evil is going to generate an intense emotion in response to it. So, but yeah, all of that, well, first of all, God's outside of time. And so all of those things take a little bit of a relative value in his eyes. But it's all that we have to work with. We are in time, and we're trying to handle the things that are coming up. And the beautiful thing, just to maybe a big picture takeaway is coming back to your original point, what do we offer to him? And the beautiful thing is that he has made a path for us to offer everything in our human experience, even sin, even the evil that we do, we can offer and receive forgiveness, receive mercy. But he takes it all. So I don't need to carefully segment what I bring to Mass or not. I can bring everything so that I can learn to love him with all my heart, all my soul, all my mind, and all my strength. Not just the good things, not just the things I like, not just the bad things, not just the things that I need help with, all the things, my whole life. My whole life can actually be received by him. And so, and I have, God himself has given words for that, has given a way to offer that. And so it's not a matter of waiting out the good emotions or waiting out the bad emotions, because we just offer what we have. We don't need to wait anything out. It's not like good emotions are a better offering. Our humanity in its honesty, vulnerability, and self, and as it is the best offering. That surrender of ourself to him, good, bad, and ugly, the whole thing. That's the best offering.
And I think that that's an important thing to take with confidence throughout this week, in that we can be a worthy offering, and that there are callings for us to do to improve, but to not have the fear of bringing it to God. And I greatly thank you for having this episode with us today, Father, and we will be with everyone again next week. Sorry, I can't even complete sentences right now.
You can offer that too. That's the best thing.
Yes. There's lots of that. It's almost contrary in that it's the one thing where you can give what you don't have.